Now, the ongoing saga about the Biden classified documents case just took an interesting turn because we finally have some audio tapes that demonstrate that Joe Biden was well aware that he had classified documents in his possession, including an audio tape from 2017 where he said, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs," referring to a basement. And he was talking about Afghanistan related classified information. And it's no wonder why the Biden legal defense team has been fighting so hard to get these audio tapes to remain under seal. But they've just been released. And not only does Joe Biden have some explaining to do and some potential accountability coming for him that we will get into, including the receipts that he was able to procure for his book, as well as the allegations that special counsel Robert Hur did not do his due diligence and did not appropriately follow up with a recommendation of criminal charges against Biden. And so these Hur tapes, they are quite explosive because they add to the case that Biden should be brought into court and made to account for why he used classified information and transmitted that to his ghostwriter. And therefore his proceeds from his book, $8 million, it looks like, not money laundered, of course, that should be seized, as well as any property that may have come about because of that. So, as you know, Robert Hur was controversially appointed to lead the investigation into the classified documents case at the same time that Jack Smith was overseeing the Trump case. And unlike Hur, Smith actually recommended criminal charges be brought against Trump. And of course, that was shot down in court by Judge Eileen Cannon, who dismissed them on the basis that Smith was unconstitutionally appointed. And so therefore, that case was dropped. So we never really got the true outrage that we could have gotten out of this case if Trump had been found guilty of the charges. But outrageously enough, that allowed the memory holding of Hur's ridiculous excuse for not even putting any criminal charges up in front of a jury. Now, he infamously concluded, quote, "We have also concluded that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did to our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness." Well, Burton's verbiage about finding classified material is found in the special counsel report, but Hur explains it away as a matter-of-fact statement. He said several defenses are likely to create reasonable doubt on such charges. For example, Mr. Biden could have found the classified Afghanistan documents at his Virginia home in 2017 and then forgotten about them soon after. This could convince some reasonable jurors that he did not retain them willfully when Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter about finding all the classified stuff downstairs. His tone was matter of fact. For a person who had viewed classified documents nearly every day for 8 years as vice president, including regularly in his home, finding classified documents in his home less than a month after leaving office could have been an unremarkable and forgettable event. Yes, if you have senile dementia, that is true. But in 2017, it is on the record that he said that he had found all the classified material downstairs. And so therefore, it appears that Biden should have been at least attempted to be tried in a court of law. And so therefore, Hur usurped the role of a jury and didn't even put the case in front of them to decide if he was guilty. Now, Biden, of course, was briefed about classified documents even when he became president of the United States later in 2021. And so there's no excuse for why he should have been competent enough to be president of the United States, but not competent enough to know what classified materials are, and if he had unlawfully retained them at some point in the past, including as vice president. If that was the case, then he immediately should have been brought up on 25th Amendment charges. Therefore, obviously someone in the administration could have moved to remove him, is the thrust of that. And therefore, he should have been removed from office well before he was pushed out by Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris, and the Democratic voters once again being deprived of a democratic means to select their own candidate in the 2024 election. Familiar story, someone that Maine voters should be sensitive to, knowing that Graham Plattner has been removed and is going to be replaced. This is such a very broad narrative on the Democratic Party. They are undemocratic. And so Joe Biden, well, there isn't a lot that can be done except for asset forfeiture, as some legal scholars have pointed to as a means of remedy in this case, because if Biden did transmit classified information to his ghostwriter, then that is a violation of the law, and that would entail asset forfeiture. And so the Oversight Project on Monday, in pursuit of that, released more than 70 hours of recordings from Biden's 2016 and 2017 interviews with ghostwriter Mark Zwanitzer for his book, Promise Me Dad. And former Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Clark, now Vice President of Litigation for the Oversight Project, said his initial review indicates Biden disclosed classified information directly to Zwanitzer during the interviews. He said, "Our team is reviewing the Biden tapes now. We will be out with various bombshells. But I want to make this point right now. The tapes make clear that Biden disclosed massive amounts of classified information to his ghostwriter, Mark Zwanitzer." Clark then pointed to a federal statute, 18 U.S.C. 798D, which provides that under conviction that there must be forfeiture of proceeds obtained through the violation of any property used to facilitate it. And, Clark argued that that was the case. And he also said that Special Counsel Robert Hur didn't seek prosecution, including the forfeiture of the $8 million book advance. And so he points at the forfeiture provision. And it's quite clear in black and white that Biden appears to have run afoul of this federal statute, and therefore could be on the hook for this asset forfeiture. So weigh in with your thoughts about this. What should happen to Biden and his violations of classified document possession and transmission of classified information? I think there has to be some accountability. We're at a crisis point. There has to be a legal standard. The rule of law is effectively dead in America because Democrats are not being prosecuted for their crimes. That is the bottom line. Fauci is out and he is still free. And you look at his diary and all of the notes in there, and it is an absolute mess. Everything that you could possibly imagine, where he was telling himself one thing which we believe to be the truth, and we were censored for telling the truth, things that line up very closely to things that a lot of independent journalists were saying. What Fauci was saying in public, which was in some case the opposite or didn't match at all, and all went to work towards the hysteria and the lockdowns and the mandates and the rest of it. And we really suffered nationally over this, and there's still been very little to no accountability over that either. So we really need to see this done. And the hearings for Fauci today, well, they're likely to be a firestorm and a drop in the bucket. We need to see real action and prosecutions. And the Hur special report just reminds us that, there's a standard for elected officials if they vote the right way with the Democratic Party or with the Uniparty, and those who don't. And those are the ones who are punished by a very abusive and unjust system that we have in America right now. We need to keep pushing to try to rein it in and reform it. So weigh in with your thoughts about this story. We always appreciate hearing from you.